Good morning, everyone. I will be presenting common bioequivalence study design deficiencies and how to avoid them. After my presentation, you should be able to understand the study designs and the relevant guidances and identify common deficiencies related to study design and analysis. And you will also be able to identify unacceptable post-hoc modifications in BE studies and apply strategies to prevent common deficiencies and improve study success. There are many types of bioequivalence studies. So there are two main categories. One is in vivo BE studies. The other one is in vitro BE studies. In vivo BE studies commonly include in vivo PK-BE study, PD-BE study, and comparative clinical endpoint study. In vitro BE studies include in vitro release testing, in vitro permeation test, particle size distribution test, single actuation content test, and many, many others. In vivo PK-BE study is the most common BE studies. Approximately 50% of ANDAs submitted over the past 12 years include at least one PK-BE studies. When you design your study, you can refer to this these guidances. The first guidance is FDA PK-BE guidance. It provides a high-level framework on most the critical aspects of PK-BE study design. The second guidance is ICH M13A. It was recently published. This guidance is focusing on immediate release solid oral dosage forms, but the scientific principles outlined in this guidance can also apply to other dosage forms or route of administration. The third guidance is ICH M1310, which recommend how to conduct, how to develop your bioanalytical method and how to validate it. The fourth guidance is FDA BE statistical guidance. It includes the high-level detailed recommendation for different types of in vivo BE study, how to statistically analyze in vivo PK-BE study designs. It also includes other statistical methods for other types of BE study designs. In addition to these general guidances, you can also refer to product-specific guidance for your specific product. So currently, there are around 2,400 PSGs published. Among these PSGs, 61% of PSGs have in vivo PK-BE study recommendations. This is a list of main components of BE study protocols, such as study objectives, study design types, study population, dosing conditions, washout period, blood sampling schedule, bioanalytical method, PK analysis, statistical analysis, safety monitoring, and others. So in my talk, I will be focusing on 5 of them: study design type, washout period, blood sampling schedule, PK analysis, and statistical analysis. This is the first example. It is related to and-on study. The guidance recommends for BE studies and-on subjects after the pre-specified number of subjects have been reached are generally not encouraged, except in an adaptive study design, with a pre-specified adaptation to add subjects and statistical methods to control the type 1 error rate and the nominal level. So one example shown here, applicants completed statistical analysis and they found the study failed. And then they add a few more subjects and to make the study pass. And this is called a post-hoc modification of the study design, and the statistical analysis is generally not acceptable. How to avoid this deficiency? So first option is use a pre-specified adaptive design when the uncertainty is very high. And another option is, so for non-adaptive designs, any sample size revision must be implemented before statistical analysis begins. The second one is related to sample size. The guidance recommends the total number of subjects in a study should be sufficient to provide adequate statistical power for a BE demonstration in the proposed study design. Inadequate sample size is one of the most common causes of failed BE studies and often results in major deficiencies. Applicants have to repeat their study. So how to avoid this inadequate sample size? So first one is you can try to develop a test product closely comparable to the reference list, the reference standard. So in that way, a TR ratio will be close to 1. So you will get the sample size should be usually should be sufficient to for a successful BE study. The second one is estimate a reasonable TR ratio and variability. So for example, you cannot really assume your TR ratio is 1. So in that case, you most likely you will get inadequate sample size. So just use a reasonable TR ratio. The most commonly used TR ratio, estimated TR ratio is 0.9 or 0.95. The third one is account for a reasonable dropout rate in the sample size estimate. So in some cases, you may come across a high dropout rate than you originally expected. So in that case, you may start an investigation and see what causes this high dropout rate, and modify your protocol as early as possible, and also before the statistical analysis. The fourth one is to conduct a pilot study when appropriate. So in this pilot study, you should be able to get a good estimate of TR ratio and also the variability. So it will help you to design your pivotal study. The last one is to use a pre-specified adaptive design when facing significant uncertainties. The next case is related to washout, inadequate washout, which lead to significant carryover concentrations. The guidance recommends for crossover BE studies, use a sufficiently long washout period, such as at least 5 elimination t-halves, and also so subjects will be excluded based on the 5% Cmax recommendation, meaning if the pre-dose concentration is greater than its respective Cmax, 5% of its respective Cmax, then subject will be excluded from the BE analysis, so which will reduce the study power. One example is that inadequate washout resulted in a failed study because of exclusion of many subjects based on the 5% Cmax recommendation. So how to avoid this deficiency? So first, consider a parallel study design if the drug product has a really long t-half. The second one is do not base washout duration solely on the mean t-half. So you should consider the variability of t-half, especially when the t-half is very long and the variability is high. You should give some buffer when you estimate this washout duration. Approaches in the protocol with scientific justifications. Also, this washout duration is already long enough. Fraction of pre-dose concentration or population PK is related to first point Cmax. The guidance recommends that for products with rapid absorption, collection of blood samples at an early time point between 5 and 15 minutes after dosing, followed by additional sample collections, such as 2 to 5 samples in the first hour after dosing, is usually sufficient to assess peak drug concentrations. However, if failing to meet this criteria may lead to exclusion of some subjects from the BE analysis. One example is that a large proportion of subjects have had Cmax at the first post-dose sampling time points of 30 minutes. So it indicates that the peak concentration was not adequately captured and the study failed. So how to avoid? So first, thoroughly understand the PK properties of the drug product, especially when this drug product is expected to have a rapid absorption. So include, if that's the case, include early time point between 5 and 15 minutes. And then if uncertainty is high, conduct a pilot study to better understand the PK properties of the drug product. Next one is related to PK analysis. The guidance recommends Cmax, AUCT, and AUCI for single-dose PKB study, and Cmax and AUC-TOL for steady-state BE studies. And there are also additional PK parameters for to support bioequivalence, including partial AUC and Tmax. There are two case examples. First one is in a fasting PKB study, subjects with missing samples right next to Cmax were included in the B analysis. The inclusion of these subjects was not acceptable because the missing samples right next to the Cmax, meaning the Cmax estimate is not accurate. So we don't know whether Cmax is Cmax in that measured Cmax or Cmax actually from the missing samples. So usually that will lead to the exclusion of that subject from the B analysis. The second one case is in a steady-state PKB study, subjects who completed the study were excluded from the B analysis because AUC-TOL could not be estimated for these subjects due to software limitation. The exclusion of these subjects was not acceptable because software limitation is not a scientific justification. How to avoid? So first, pre-specify scientifically sound methods for calculating PK parameters in the protocol. So for example, when you calculate AUCT, there are different methods such as linear up, linear down, or linear up, log down method. It's better to pre-specify which method you use to calculate this AUCT. Secondly, pre-specify inclusion and exclusion criteria related to PK analysis. But this inclusion and exclusion criteria should be scientifically sound. So you cannot just so if it's not scientifically sound, even you include pre-specified inclusion or exclusion criteria, we may not agree with your this criteria during the review. Lastly, minimize deviations in blood sampling, particularly at critical time points. Next one is related to statistics, covariance in parallel study statistical model. The guidance recommends the applicant may consider pre-specified inclusion of important demographic factors and baseline prognostic covariance in the statistical model for parallel study designs. One case example is that the study failed using the pre-specified statistical model without covariance, and then the applicant add covariance to their statistical model post-hoc to obtain a passing result. And this is a typical post-hoc statistical analysis, which is commonly not acceptable. So how to avoid? First, pre-specify covariance in the statistical model for parallel study designs. And if statistical model revision is necessary, revise the statistical model before actually conducting the statistical analysis. Lastly, is related to group analysis. The guidance recommends the statistical model should take into account the multiple group nature of the BE study, such as by using a model including terms for group, sequence by group, subject within sequence by group, period within group, and formulation. One common deficiency we see is that applicants didn't include group-related terms in the statistical model, and when they use their own model, the study passed. But when we during the BE review, so when we include appropriate group terms in the statistical model, study failed. So applicant has to repeat their study. So how to avoid? So if possible and if feasible, try to avoid using multiple groups. So just use one group if possible. And if multiple groups are necessary and unavoidable, then you include group-related terms in your in the final statistical model. So summary, so in my presentation, I reviewed key regulatory recommendations for PKBE studies and highlighted common deficiencies in PKBE study design and analysis, emphasized that many failed studies resulted from inadequate planning, and stressed the importance of pre-specified scientifically and statistically sound protocols. And we highly encourage proactive strategies to prevent deficiencies and improve BE study success rate. Last but not least, I would like to thank my colleagues Wutpo, Bing, and Yuhua for their constructive comments to my presentation slides. Thank you. Yeah.